good afternoon in case you're connecting from Italy, or good morning or good evening if you're connecting from another part of the world. This afternoon session is dedicated to youth participation in internet governance. I'm Riccardo Nanni. I'll be moderator of this very informal roundtable in which we will be discussing personal experiences in youth participation in internet governance, as well as the obstacles and perhaps why not solutions, policies to enhance youth participation in internet governance all over the world, not just in Italy. As for me, I'm a member of the Youth Internet Governance Forum of Italy, so the youth organization of the IGF, the association that organized the event that we're attending today. And with me, I have Umut, Pajaro, Velasquez, and Veronica Piccolo, who both in different roles youth members of the Internet Society. Umut, Veronica, would you like to say a word about yourself?
Okay, I guess I'll go first. My name is Umut Pajaro Velasquez. I'm from Colombia. Right now, I'm part of the Colombian chapter from Internet Society. And in that chapter, I coordinate the youth working group. Along with Laura Ramos. We are two coordinators in the youth working group. Also, I'm the coordinator of the youth Latin American and Caribbean IGF, and the head of the youth, and I'm the head, sorry, I'm the chair of the gender standing group from ISO. I study communication, so I'm pretty much like an outsider inside of on this internet governance, and not came from a typical background when it comes to internet governance, because I study communication, then I study cultural studies, and for some reason I ended up in internet governance, maybe because it's a big part of my activism is digital rights for minorities, especially gender-based minorities, women, and young people. So pretty much that's how I ended up in internet governance.
Thank you, Umut. Veronica?
Hello, everyone. My name is Veronica. I'm a PhD student from Ca' Foscari University. It's a PhD course called Law, Markets and Person. I deal with, I'm researching in the impact of artificial intelligence in a data-driven market and the impact on competition. And exactly as Umut said, I'm in the internet governance by chance because I came across this program launched by the Internet Society some years ago in 2020. It was called IGF Youth Ambassadors Program, and the purpose was to train newcomers, young people under 30 young people in internet governance. There was like an actual training and course, and help them develop some project. And then the purpose is to allow them to be prepared to participate in the global IGF. It's what I did in 2020. And since then, I've been staying in the internet governance ecosystem with participating in some international program. The Next Gen Icon, where I met Riccardo in 2021, and then the Youth DIG, which the acronym of Youth Dialogue on Internet Governance, which is the program for young people of the EuroDIG, the European Dialogue of Internet Governance. And after I became one of the organizing members of the Youth DIG in 2022, and currently I'm chairing the youth standing group of the Internet Society. I've been elected in February. Well, I won't talk very much about my group, but it's how I ended up in this, ecosystem.
Thank you, Veronica. Actually, as you were talking, I'm very happy you mentioned some of the programs that allow people from several backgrounds to access internet governance that is least technical, probably, and most accessible. And I was trying to share the links on the chat, but then I realized that only goes to organizers and panelists, which is not very helpful. So I would have to direct the direction if there's a possibility for me to share with all the participants, because I believe it would be interesting for at least some of them to receive some of these links. And it's nice to see that none of us has a technical background. I also have a background in social sciences. In particular, I have a PhD in politics. I studied politics all throughout my tertiary education. And it was only during my PhD that my professor told me, why don't you check up this very nice and thriving internet governance literature? And I decided to go as deep as possible into the politics of internet standardization. And so I needed to put together some quote unquote culture for myself. For the others, it was not really anything new, but I had to learn it from the very beginning of how things work at technical level. But as you can see, you can participate in internet governance in a variety of ways, including, for example, but not limited to, contrasting hate speech online. That's an internet governance method that doesn't require a strong technical background, but rather the knowledge of how certain social phenomena work and how they can get amplified by social media and other internet-based tools. And perhaps later we'll know more about this with Umut, who's an expert in communication. He studies communication. So we've anticipated how we all made it, quote unquote, through the obstacle course that is internet governance for non-technical people. But would you like to share a bit more about the obstacles that you met and what you did to overcome them, or the obstacles that you saw other people meeting, for example, and if you have any idea on how to address them? Of course, there can be many, but we try to pick and choose a couple and maybe have a discussion on how to address them and see how they affect different people in different ways. Veronica, would you like to start?
Yeah, I think that Umut and I have like the same idea of the obstacle that we're coming through, we're coming across in the internet governance ecosystem as young people. But I'd like to ask you, Riccardo, if you would like to know the obstacle that we encounter in the global space or in the Italian space, because there are two different areas, two different spaces. They have two completely different problems. Maybe the people in participating here, they are more interested in the Italian space, in geographical space at least. Just would like to know.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's start, I think you're right. Let's start from Italy and then move to global. We're in IGF Italy after all.
Okay. So I haven't been very active in the Italian internet governance space. Personally, I always felt being part of a community, the global community, global internet governance community. And that is very important also to, pinpoint the fact that I feel to belong somewhere. The major obstacle I feel that is present in Italy is that the youth engagement, the youth involvement is almost non-existent. I can name and I can count on the fingers of my hand the people, young people under 30, under 35, that have been actually involved and participating into the internet governance space in Italy. And that is a real problem for me. You don't have new people, newcomers at all. And also the people that are there, they are actually people that, you know, came across almost randomly into the internet governance. Some of them are not actually trained in some cases. They haven't followed any course in the internet governance. So my question is, if a newcomer is interested in internet governance, where do they go? The IGF is an association that doesn't do any course, any fellowship. And I came across like a number of names. For example, in this event, many of them are professors teaching at university. So they are always in contact with young people, with young students, but how many of them actually encourage their students to take part and be interested into internet governance? And even if they do, young people, I mean, young students, they always have to attend international program, like the program I mentioned, the use IGF's, the IGF Youth Ambassador Program, which is led organized by the Internet Society, which is an American organization, non-governmental organization. So the program is led in English. The youth dialogue on internet governance, which is organized by the Erodic, and the program is in English. So my question is whether young people that maybe don't speak English or are not comfortable with the use of the English as a working language, how they can actually be involved. I can actually enter the internet governance ecosystem if they have to overcome the language barrier. In Italy, there isn't any fellowship, any training program, any course at all. And that is the very problem of youth engagement in Italy. There is one association that does that. The association is called ISOC Italia. Is the national chapter of the American organization, and is mainly made by internet pioneers, people working in technical organization, university professor, and they have a strong youth engagement. They have a group of young people. The group has a name. It's called, I think, Osservatorio Giovani. It's made by like tens of young people. I mean, under 30, people 25 years old, young university students, and that it's a good practice to share. A few years ago, there was like a conflict between the organizers of the IGF and ISOC Italia. And, you know, this conversation between the two has ceased over time. So this is the main issue I found, at least into the Italian geographical space. Then I would also say financing, but I will like leave the floor to Umut.
Well, it caught my attention that actually some of the problems that you have, we have it here in Latin America, in Colombia. Especially in Colombia, we had the exactly the same issue of having more young people participating in our local activities related to internet governance. Mainly the youth participation is related to the universities here. A lot of the professors, especially when the ones that have some master or PhD in topics related to internet governance, encourage their students to be part of the ecosystem and in the discussions of internet governance here. In Colombia, we have something called the round table of internet governance, or the tabla ronda o internet governance, la mesa redonda de gobernanza de internet, así se llama. So this space allows that pretty much anyone can be part of the conversation in the country. During the last few years, we see that the participation of young people are increasing. So for us, it's a good sign. And even for the ones that has a lot of years in the table, says that they want it to happen that for a few years, because they are quite like organizing this the internet governance forum here in Colombia for 10 years, and believe it or not, only until this year we had a new Colombian year after 10 years of doing a Colombian year. So it's something that it is happening, baby steps, but it's happening. We hope that in the next year we start to increase the participation here. Also, in Latin America, we are doing something similar in ways to engage with more of the local chapters and start to working as a network of the different local chapters in Latin America. We're taking like the example of from Brazil and how they handle the things. They divide the country, for example, they divide Brazil into 5 regions, and those 5 regions have representatives that goes to the national IEF. So we're trying to replicate that kind of system in all the region. So we have people from Central America, from the Caribbean part that I actually have 3 languages, have 4 main languages that are Dutch, English, Spanish, and French. So we had that. We had that in the Caribbean. That is a small part of the world and have 4 languages, so it's quite complicated. And then we have all South America that have 2 languages, that is Spanish and Portuguese. And another thing that you mentioned that actually made me think on ways of giving some guidance to young people is that we starting to do like a previews to our IGF or regional IGF here in Latin America is to do like a school of internet governance. So we start to teach all the basics about internet governance for all the newcomers and start to use some example of how can they participate if they come from the civil society, if they come from the technical background, or if they come, for example, the academia. Yeah, because private sector already know what is the role. We have to say that, and the government also knows what is the role in this ecosystem. So we start to focus on those aspects that pretty much most of the young people are right now in academia, technical sector, and the civil society. So we can offer some guidance in the ways in the way that we can, because we aren't much people doing a lot of work for a really big region, uh, about 600 million of people are living in Latin America, so it's a lot of people. But yeah, when it comes to globally, what I had to say that pretty much there is the option is always there. There are different programs like the ICANN Next Gen, for example, the ISO U ambassador. Usually we go to those programs to continue our path in internet governance, because if we only have what our countries offer, sometimes we don't find enough in what the countries offer, and it's quite sad. In some way, we have to improve more in that aspect, but if we want to get more information, more education about those topics, we had to pretty much, usually most of us had to go to any of those programs or start to relate with any of those programs somehow to get like higher in the ladder of internet governance, for saying like that. Yeah.
Thank you both, because this was actually a lot of food for thought. On my end, I would like to add that being a member of the IGF Italy Association, and in particular the youth section, we are engaged in trying to get the youth participating into the IGF. But I can echo Veronica in saying that sometimes it's difficult to find funds to support that, and also that programs either don't exist or there are and are very embryonic because they started at a much later stage than they should have. For example, from this year, the IGF, with the help of the Chamber of Commerce system, is starting a school on internet governance, which is dedicated to a selected group of schools, of secondary schools. So that's a very good initiative to which I personally am participating, because it's engaging with secondary school students, and it's also useful to let them know, look, next year, probably you go into university. And look, this is the kind of career that you can look at. This is the kind of engagement that you can look at. And you don't need to be an engineer or an IT specialist to work in internet governance. So that's actually a very important initiative that is taking place, but it's still tiny. It started this year. It's a good step forward. It's important, but we're at a very embryonic stage. And this is why I'm happy that Umut is here, because I think that in comparison across countries, we can really learn from each other on the best practices that different civil society organizations in different countries have established. And I can only echo Umut and Veronica in inviting everyone who's listening to us to participate to such programs as NextGen at ICANN, Eurodig, YouthDig again, and YouthDig is the youth section of the European IGF. The European IGF is called Eurodig, European Dialogue on Internet Governance, but it's the same thing, just at the European level. And interesting enough, I started engaging in internet governance at the European level rather than the Italian one, because the first time I engaged with the Italian IGF, I must say, it wasn't very clear to me what it was that I had to do to actually start participating, whereas that was much clearer at the European level. And so I started there. I got to know the youth IGF from Italy, and so I also got engaged in Italy. So I went in a sense, in the wrong way around. You normally expect people to start locally and then go global in a way, but in that case, it was different. And again, this was 2019. It was 3 years ago, but a lot of things has changed, both because of COVID and because the Italian IGF has taken a new form in the last couple of years. So many things have changed. Some of them have become clearer. There's a different type of engagement. There have been conversations within the organization, also between the overall IGF and the youth section, to try and understand how to make it easier for the youth to participate. For example, you can join the IGF association, the IGF Italy Association, for free if you're a student. And this, I think, is an important element of inclusion. that was incorporated in the IGF statute only recently, because again the process of formalization of the Italian IGF was very recent. So yeah, there are efforts. I would like everyone who's here to join the groups that Veronica and Umut are participating in, but also to join the Youth IGF Italy. You can do that by simply sending an email to IGF Giovani. I'll tell you in Italian because most of you will be Italian. igfgiovani@gmail.com. This way it's easy and we get it right. But again, that's because there's a lot to do to increase youth engagement, and it's only if the youth themselves get to do something about it that results can be seen in the long run. Just before moving to discussing potential solutions, because I always get frustrated when I listen to panels that only list problems. So I would like to discuss potential solution, but I would like to share a fun fact with you. When we started formalizing the Youth Italian IGF, we were discussing what was the age limit. What was the age limit that we should have set for people to participate in the Youth IGF? Globally, it's normally 30 years of age, but in Italy, we decided to put it at 35. And now I could accommodate so many negative stereotypes about the Italians. I'm Italian myself, so I'm allowed to do that. But seriously, the reason why we did that is because in Italy, it's very hard to find anyone who's in a meaningful position in business or in government before the age of 30, and that would have meant that we would have found it so difficult to represent 2 out of 4 of the IGF stakeholders, and so we needed to increase the age threshold to be considered youth if we wanted to have a meaningful youth IGF participation from a variety of stakeholder groups. And so there's a broader societal issues here at play, which is not just related to the internet governance environment, which is that climbing the career ladder wherever is a very slow path in the Italian economic system. And so when we envisage mechanisms for youth participation, we should also keep that into consideration, both to smooth the path, but also to avoid excluding people who are still, who are perhaps not that young anymore because they're over 30, but they're still junior in their career path. So they are young career-wise. This was just a couple of observations here and there that I wanted to share, other than invitations for people to join the initiatives that we discussed. I see that the direction has sent in the link to YouthDig. Thank you for doing that. I will also send in a few more links in a second. To try and discuss solutions. One thing for me would be, for example, that youth groups like those that you have within ISOC and those that we have within the IGF, for example. I'd like, for example, to point out that Veronica is very active in ISOC, but she's one of the co-organizers of this section. And so she's been very good at bridging youth engagement in internet governance across different organizations. I would like to discuss with you ways in which our organizations could help the engagement of young people in internet governance, for example, starting from such fora as the IGF, but not limited to that at a late, in a broader fashion. For example, one thing I'd like to point out is that civil society participation in the IGF is quite widespread, but it's not as widespread in more technical bodies like the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force. However, it's there that standards, the way the internet works is elaborated. And so how can we engage in bringing more people closer to the core of decision making? These are all aspects that I would like to discuss with you. But before sharing my own very messy opinions, I would like to know what the two of you think about it. Veronica, would you like to go first?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. One thing that I wanted to clarify is that the IGF is not the only forum of the internet governance. It's just one of the many. You mentioned the IEEE, but IETF, but I also, that it's also another organization, the IEEE, and then ICANN as its own policy forum, always, you know, working internet governance stuff. And you know, the question is how you bring young people in the spaces where discussion gets more and more complex, more and more technical, and how you actually, you know, engage them at a higher level, and how, of course, you bridge the gap between, you know, civil society or people with no technical background and people, experts, technical expert working in some organization like IEEE and ICANN. And but also, you know, the internet society itself is like a member of the technical community. So what I've been taught, what I've learned over time with the program I've attended, I participated into, is that you don't need like to be a technical, you don't need a technical background, you don't need to be an engineer to participate in internet governance, because what is being discussed in internet governance space is something that concern you as a person, that concern you as user, you know, not only as a professional. So even if you are a simple user, you can participate in IGF discussion and IGF forum. So the question that you ask is how you actually bridge the gap, you know, between the civil society across organization and among from international to national, at international and national level. I can tell you my experience with the youth standing group. So the youth standing group is the permanent representation group of young people in the internet society. It supports and promotes youth involvement in mainstream internet governance discussions and works to achieve the internet young people want, which is a more equitable but also more accessible. The youth standing groups aim, you know, to foster new and sustainable collaboration with the various ISO chapter, national chapter, and other youth initiatives. You mentioned my collaboration with the youth IGF Italy, but I can also bring you the example of the work we have been doing with the gender standing group and the YCIG, which is the acronym of the Youth Coalition on Internet Governance. The Youth Coalition on Internet Governance is the coalition of young people officially recognized by the United Nations, is one of the coalition active and the at the global IGF, and which represent the instances and the interest of the young people across globe. So what we have been doing with the YCIG and with the gender standing group, I mean, what we have been done, what we did, and what we have been doing. So what we did is in March, we launched a call for working groups. So when we knew that the Internet Governance Forum had to be taking place in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, exactly in less than 10 days, so at the end of November. We knew that there were like 5 main track, so 5 thematic track. For each thematic track, we launched a call for working groups. So we asked our member base, our members, the members of the YCIG, the youth standing group, and the gender standing group, to participate in these working groups. In this work, we of course we launched like an introductory section. That means we explain how the Internet Governance Forum works and what are the 5 thematic track. And in that case, many young people actually joined the working groups. And the purpose was to come up with topic the young people actually care about, topic that for them is important to discuss, and that is important for them to discuss at global level. But this is not enough, because this topic are also discussed broadly in various Internet governance spaces. But what was important for us is to give young people a voice. Many of the youth initiatives, the youth event, youth session are usually limited, are usually kept in a bubble. There are youth initiatives that are not brought in mainstream IGF spaces. What we wanted to do is to actually bring young people and senior stakeholders. And when I mean senior, I mean expert, like with senior with like 40 or 50 years old, and bring them at the same table. Not like in other session when it was a youth session, we use talking to youth. No, this time we wanted to change things, and we wanted to do like by bringing the youth into organization of the session, come up with the topics, and also allowing to outreach to senior stakeholders and see if senior stakeholders are also more keen, more likely to start to engage in a conversation with people younger than them. What we did is to come up with some proposal. We submitted some proposal, and was like a very complex structure. We come up with the background, with the policy question. We did the outreach. We called for online moderators, on-site moderators, the rapporteurs, and we applied with our proposal. We like submitted something like 15 or 16 proposal, and I think nine of them were actually selected. So we have like 8 of 9 sessions organized by young people, with young people being moderators, rapporteurs, and speakers alongside with senior stakeholders. We have like a session on internet fragmentation where there are young people with Director General of DG Connect of the European Commission, and with the professor, with university professor. So, this is something that can be done, but it's something that we did. It was our initiative. It's nothing, nobody came to us asking us to be a speaker, like in other session, like organized by the other partners or other organization. Nobody came to us asking, do you want to bring your voice on this topic? It's just something that we did. So sometimes we have to step up and actually do the thing ourselves, because we have the capacity, we have the ambition to bring our voices there. And, you know, I'm pretty happy. I'm not going to the IGF Ethiopia. I'm very proud of all the people that are actually bringing their voices there, that are actually going there. So this is something that that can be done elsewhere, you know.
Thank you, Veronica. Absolutely, a lot of very useful observations, so in terms of solution. Umut, would you like to add something?
Well, yes, I follow Veronica in the way that we actually need to create the spaces for the young people inside of the internet governance ecosystem. For example, right now, inside of the IGF, it's something called Just Summit, because a group of young people in 2018 in Berlin, in 2019 in Berlin, we decide that that space is going to happen. And we organize ourselves to talk in the final remarks, in the open mic session, at the end of the IGF of that year, to speak about that. So several of us, including Deborah Barletta from Italy, she also spoke about that at the IGF. So it was like, there is a lot of people here from different parts of the world saying to you, we need this space and we are ready to have this space in the IGF. So they include that as part of the conclusions of the IGF that year. And the next year, we started with, in 2020, we started with an official youth summit inside of the IGF. So we're going to have ourselves youth summit this year. Yeah, from 70 IGFs now, we only going for the youth summit. So we have something right now inside of the IGF, but not only, as Veronica said, not only the IGF is the only space where we, as young people, can participate. We also can participate from, as I said before, from academia, actually. There is a lot of university working in these topics actually doesn't know that actually working in these topics. I found a case here in my city, the university where I graduated from communications. There is a research group that actually works in digital rights and the implications of those digital rights in real life. That is internet governance. And and they didn't actually relate the concept of digital rights and those implications in real life with internet governance. So I was like, yes, you are doing that. So you need to start to participate in those spaces because it's going to help you to grow as investigators, as researchers, and also it's going to bring more voices beside the already one that you have in your space. Because it's not only to have academia inside there, it's not only to have people that study law or study communication inside there. Also have people that is a final user of the technology, because most of the young people right now are the final users of the internet. So we need to also start to find ways that more young people know the digital rights, know what the platforms and all these new technologies are doing, and how
Sorry, Umut, I think I've lost the last bit of your...
Hi, now?
Hi, yes.
Okay, my dogs are barking a lot. Sorry for that.
Okay.
Yes, well, right now, And I see that right now we need to teach young people which are the digital rights in order to be empowered to reclaim those digital rights. Because we need more young people, not only uh, not only go to the process of academia or being a part of social society or being a part of civil society, but also as a final user, may the voices heard on the table, because there is a lot of spaces that are open for them and not being used because the people doesn't have the knowledge about those kind of things. So yeah, that's pretty much with that one to close.
Thank you, Umut. Yeah, I think a lot of very important aspects have been raised. Youth initiatives exist, youth initiatives are growing. The beautiful Isaac initiative about youth engagement, which is definitely very well organized and structured. There's our organization, the Youth IGF Italy, and there are the youth initiatives that we are about to share in the chat and that we mentioned during the meeting. But definitely, if it's not us as young people who bring our own interest to the stage, nobody's going to ask us to come forward. So it's important that we also tell each other about youth initiatives we may not know about, so that we get engaged and we bring our own topics of interest forward. So I would like, we're heading towards the end, but I would like to know if someone in the audience may have questions. Perhaps I haven't stressed this enough, but below in your video, you have a box called question and answers, or domande e risposte if your Zoom is in Italian. And you can post your question there, and we will be very happy to address it if you have any curiosity. And definitely, if you want to get in touch either with us individually or with our organizations at a later stage, because you are curious about how to participate in internet governance, or because you're curious about our own study and work path, and you want to talk about any project you may have for your studies, or you need contacts, just feel free to come forward with it. So we still have 12 minutes to go. If there are no questions, Veronica, Umut, would you like to jump in for any final thought, final conclusion, final call for action?
Yeah, maybe something that came up this year, like in with regard with the Internet Governance Forum. So one of the reason why young people, also the participation of young people, especially from European country, like, I mean, West Europe, United States and Canada, it's very little. I mean, there are a few people from West Europe and North America going to the IGF, and it's not something that we noticed this year. It's something that is going on for a few years, actually. Also concern the funds. So I had a chance to actually attend the IGF Katowice last year, because I have my private fund that allow me to go there. And this year, you know, I always inquiring people, you know, are you going there? Who is financing? Who is funding you? I always find that young people from developing country have like the chance to go there because they can count on the funds of the United Nations. And Huyskes come from like G7 country, or from Europe, from like, you know, West Europe or Northern Europe or North America. We don't have, we are not eligible for that funding because our country are supposedly a rich country. So we are like, we are supposed to have more chances to get fund to go there. But I think that we may have more chance to go there, no, without funds. And maybe we need also to stress about the importance of, you know, finding travel support or granting travel support for young people, because also the representation of our country is very important when it comes to dialogue at a higher level. When we do not participate, we do not give meaningful, you know, contribution to the discussion, and we lose relevance. So it's very important also to stress this. And you know, when it comes to, we are at Italian IGF, and if there are any stakeholder or people in the organization, we have to, you know, pinpoint that there is a problem also on this on this side, you know, on this side of you know, of the discussion or of the topic.
Thank you, Veronica. And meanwhile, we received a comment by Elmo, who said that the organizing of working groups of youth and senior, I believe it is a good idea. Thank you, Elmo, for your feedback. We appreciate that this type of activity, of engagement activity, is appreciated. And generally, if you have any idea for initiatives, and if you have any topic that is of your interest that you think is under-addressed in internet governance, feel free to get in touch with any of us or any of our respective organizations, and we will be happy to discuss with you how to best bring it forward to the international stage of internet governance. Umut, would you like to add something as a final note?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you, Veronica, for inviting me. I also the Jeff Italia for the space. For me, it's quite important to be involved somehow in spaces on Italy. It's a country close to my heart. My grandpa is from Piemonte, so yeah, that's why I understand Italian. But I can speak it very well, so I don't try to speak. I avoid it. Well, what I'm about to say, young people. I actually agree with Veronica in the way that we need to bring exactly the same opportunity for young people, no matter where they're from, because it's quite unfair when you decide that you're going to favor more a country than other, especially knowing that young people pretty much in this stage or development that we are in the same condition. We are probably the younger generation right now and more alive than never before, and pretty much everywhere in the world. We can lie about it. If you talk with someone and from another side of the world, you will realize that you have a lot in common with that person, even when you don't actually born and even born there, or you don't have supposedly a similar background to them. So it's a generation that actually struggle a lot to make their voice heard. So we need to guarantee that those spaces or making those voices heard, or also demanding that the voices are being heard, still necessary and always being there until the demands that we have became a reality. At the end, as I said before, we are the main users of these new technologies and the ones that are actually are promoting the new changes. The ones also participating in somehow auto-regulate those new technologies, especially the internet.
Thank you, Umut. Now in the chat, we have the possibility to send messages to all participants. So I shared the email contact for Youth IGF Italy, igf@giovani@gmail.com. You will also have received all the links to the programs and the organizations we mentioned today. And I would like to ask Veronica and Umut if they can share the contacts of their respective groups. I see Veronica did it. Thanks a lot. And again, once again, I invite all the participants to join this group, or at least to join the group chats or communication channels of this group, and remain informed about the initiatives and check if there's something they would like to engage with. Meanwhile, I would like to thank Umut and Veronica for participating. Umut for making it to the Italian IGF despite the different time zone and everything. Veronica for being a protagonist of the organization of this panel. And I would also like to thank the organizing effort of the IGF, and in particular the Regia, who's been doing a great job at keeping all the technical aspects together. I wish you all a great continuation of the event, and also a very good weekend. Cheers, see you soon.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Riccardo, and thank you to the IGF Italia.
Grazie. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.